Hey friends, your old buddy Wildcard checking in with you from beautiful Whitville, Virginia. I'm here holed up at exit 77 at the nice Flying J with the more level parking lot. There's one a few exits down that's built on the side of the mountain. That's a little more cumbersome than this joint. But anyway, today I wanted to answer the age-old question, a question which is bothering concerning some of you have emailed me and asking, which is better, GPS or this Atlas that I'm hearing about? And what is this Atlas thing I'm hearing about? Which is better? Which should I use? And the answer is neither and both. What? How can that be? How can neither be better? How can both be better? How could I use both? Well, let me put it to you this way. If I were to ask you, which is better between these 9/16 inch wrenches? Which is better? Which should you use? The answer would be, well, that depends upon what job you're trying to do. And that's the answer with GPS and Atlas. You see, both of these implements are designed to manipulate 9/16 inch fasteners, yet in different ways. This end of this wrench will get you into places that this end won't be as convenient. If you're trying to get underneath a flange or something, you should use the close end, or other applications where you're going to want to use the open end of this wrench. Yet there are certain fasteners that, depending upon where it's located, this socket wrench is going to be what you're going to want to use. Sometimes even with like a deep dish socket, something a little longer. Yet, and this is especially the case with the GPS and Road Atlas debate, there are many instances where you're going to need to use both of these wrenches to do the job properly. If you've got the bolt head on one side and a nut on the other side behind a flange or something, you're going to want to use both of these tools. And that's the case with GPS and Atlas. So let's get into that. What do I mean when I say Atlas? I mean the official Rand McNally Motor Carriers Road Atlas. It's not just a regular Rand McNally map, it's specific to motor carriers. So if you're going to get one that says Motor Carriers. I like the laminated spiral bound version. It's easier to flip through. You don't need to buy one every year. They do change, they do update, but not that often. I get one about every other year, sometimes every 3 years, what have you. What makes this unique is a number of features. Has a mileage chart between major cities that you don't really need to know right now. But it also has, and we'll get into this, a listing of restricted routes in the front of the Atlas by state. It'll show you, in a written form, which roads you're not supposed to be on legally in a commercial vehicle. And helpfully, it will also show you on the state itself. You can see the roads highlighted in orange here. These are roads which are approved for commercial vehicles. And you can see there's a couple major intersections that are missing that you're just not supposed to be on in a big truck. Why is that important? Because that's where you get that information to the most current regulatory concerns, meaning that GPS units, especially Google Maps, do not use Google Maps to route your truck. There's a purpose for Google Maps, and it's not to route your big truck. Even truck GPS, though, don't always get that right. Whenever I come home out of, say, the northern Ohio region, if I'm coming back into my corner of Virginia from the northwest area, both of my truck GPS units want to put me on a road that I'm not legally allowed to be on. I've been on that road, can you get a truck around there? Sure, yeah, you can, but you shouldn't. It's a little too small and it's too steep in places, and the powers that be have decided, a long time ago, no trucks on this road. And you find that in every state, some more so than others, but those roads exist, and you can get in trouble legally for being on that road. You can get in trouble logistically. You can come to a corner that you can't get around. You can come to a bridge that you can't get under, or you can come to a bridge that's too weak to support the weight of your truck. The only way you'll know that for sure is with the Rand McNally Motor Carriers Atlas. So how do you use both of these things in conjunction with each other? Well, the first thing I do is I figure out where I'm going, check the Atlas, and get the main route in mind. I look for the generally shortest direction and get in my mind which interstates and which U.S. highways I'm going to use to connect to get from point A to point B. Then I'll punch the information into the GPS units and apps that I use, and see where they agree and where they disagree with each other. But I already know where I'm going. The GPS best functionality is used to inform you of the distance to your next junction, to your next turn, to your next exit, to the interchange, wherever you have to change your course. The GPS will visually tell you, hey, in 58.7 miles you need to bear the left, or in 2.5 miles you need to get off on exit 187, what have you. You don't get that level of detail with the motor carrier's road atlas. That's where the GPS units come in most beneficially for your journeys. Again, they do make mistakes, and they do err sometimes based on their routing parameters. I was coming down through Ohio not too long ago, coming around Columbus, and both of my GPS units wanted me to take that 270 loop around Columbus, which usually certain times a day is a much quicker route. It adds a few miles to the journey, but usually, depending upon traffic, it's a little faster, and at that time both of my units were set for the fastest routing. But I knew at that time of morning there was no traffic in the middle of Columbus, there was no construction going on, so the shortest route with no impedance was straight through Columbus, so that's the way I went. And again, mention parameters. You can set your GPS unit to inform you of the route that's the shortest mileage wise, or the route that's the quickest time wise. I have one and the other so that I can compare. I have one unit set to the shortest route, one unit set to the quickest route, and I compare. And things fluctuate and change as you go along in your journeys, and you got to know which one to trust when they disagree with each other, because they will. I've gotten off an exit a number of times, and my GPS units will tell me to take opposite turns, when I know from studying the map, and importantly, studying the written directions that you have, that the customers provided, that I need to take a right because where I'm going is down there, but yet my other GPS unit wants me to go this way. Very strange. I don't know why they do that, but sometimes they don't know where you are. They get a little lost sometimes, especially as construction occurs and exits change and get shifted around. There's a not new anymore, a bypass in North Carolina, 74. It's a little short toll road, runs for a few miles, but one of my GPS units, even though it's been updated a number of times, doesn't recognize that road at all. It thinks I'm flying through outer space, and it's just got me in this void of no man's land. And then every once in a while it thinks I'm crossing over a residential neighborhood that doesn't exist anymore on some side streets, and it's telling me to stop immediately and turn around. It's kind of funny. So I use the motor carrier's atlas to start off with, and then I run two GPS units. I also use a couple apps on my phone. There's a good app called Trucker Path that will inform you of truck stops, rest areas, things of that nature. You can punch in a route, it'll give you a route. They're not as efficient as the Copilot that Maverick provides and the Garmin unit that I use, but Trucker Path does have some free routing software. But its best function is to tell you, which truck stops are coming up along your route, which rest areas are coming up along your route. But it doesn't know everything. I was in Baltimore loading with another Maverick driver, and he was asking me how to get to this little truck stop in inner city Baltimore. I told him I was from there, and I told him how to get there, and said, "Well, why do you want to go there this time of morning? We're both headed to the same place." He said, "Well, I got to do my first load check," and I looked on my GPS, and there's no rest area or truck stop or anything headed westbound. And I said, "Yeah, sure there is. It's about the 40-mile marker in Maryland, Myersville rest area." He said, no, it's not on my GPS. The only one they have is on the eastbound side. And I told him his GPS was wrong. I said, "Give me your atlas, I'll show you." And he didn't have one, so I couldn't show him, because the motor carrier's atlas does also indicate where the rest areas are. It's got a little icon and everything. It even tells you which ones have facilities and which ones don't, so that's helpful. But anyway, he was relying on his GPS, and he would have never known that rest area was there had I not told him. And he kind of disbelieved me at first. And I told him, I said, "No, man, it's been there my whole life." I said, "It's actually the rest area where they captured those two DC snipers, if you remember that news story from a number of years ago. It's the Myersville, Maryland rest area. Been there forever." I said, it's about the 40-yard line. It's just outside of the 50-mile radius to do your first load check, but it's close enough, and it's the first safest place to stop that's on our route. So you know, he believed me, and I saw him later, and that's where he stopped, and all was well. But just another example of why you can't trust your GPS unit entirely. Do not just punch in the address, jump in the truck and go. You'll be sorry. It'll get you into jams and tight places and places you shouldn't be logistically or legally, especially Google Maps. Let me say that again. Do not use Google Maps to route your truck, ever, ever. The best thing you can use that for is, you know, once you get off the interstate and you're a few turns away, you can have the address punched in already so that you can compare what it's telling you with what your truck GPS and your written directions are telling you. Particularly, you know, you'll get directions sometimes that, you know, have you going down a particular road and it'll say take the third entrance. Well, okay, you're going to want to know ahead of time where that's coming up and what that's going to look like. And with Google Maps and their satellite feature, you can zoom in and see, oh, okay, yeah, I'll get on the street level and I'll come around, there'll be the first entrance, second entrance, and you can help yourself ahead of time by looking at the imagery, the actual photographs of what the place looks like, and you'll have a better idea of what you're getting into once you get there. So that's what I use. I use the Motor Carriers Atlas first and foremost, and I run the Copilot GPS unit that Maverick provides in their tablets in all of their trucks. I also have a standalone Garmin unit that I run in conjunction with that, and I use the Trucker Path app on my phone. That also helps for finding parking and stuff. And no, I don't get any endorsements or anything from them, but check it out. It's called Trucker Path, and it's a helpful app. There's a paid version, and then there's a free version. You know, make up your mind which is best for you. Got any questions on that? Email me if you have any questions in general about Maverick transportation or truck driving or just the life or what we go through out there. Shoot me an email. I'll be happy to help in any way that I can, and I want to thank you all for coming along on the journey. Take care. Bye-bye.